Recently, I just did a challenge run in Liza P where I started the game at NG+7. After finishing that run, it got me wondering what would a base level run or Echo level 10 run be like. Not being one to shy away from a challenge, I decided to find out for myself, so I am here today to tell all of you my story of beating Liza P at base level. Also, make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more crazy runs like these or just like seeing me suffer. I also have a VOD channel, so if you would like to see unedited versions of some of my runs, check out my VOD channel at Kane VODs. With that said, let's get into the rules for this run. Rule number 1, no leveling. So that means whatever starting class I pick with, I am stuck with those stats. Rule number 2, throwable items are allowed, but only under certain conditions, which I will go over when we get to that point. Rule number 3, no summons. Rule number 4, the run will be done on Legendary Stalker. And lastly, rule number 5, beat all bosses. With the rules out of the way, we can get this run started. For the starting class, you could go with any of the 3. Personally, I think Path of the Sweeper is the weakest due to the fact that you handicap yourself pretty hard with low stamina, and that extra Legion will not help out that much. Path of the Balance and Path of the Bastards are both good choices, but I went with the Path of the Balance to help with damage scaling overall. Once having my class, I bullied the Puppet Police Officer like any normal run, which was a nice change of pace for my last 2 Liza P runs. I then make it to Kart Central Station Plaza, where I still make sure to pick up the Ergo Crystals in the area because I will still be needing Echoes to buy Fable Catalyst, Legion Magazine, and other items. Speaking of buying items, I reach the merchant and buy all the electric blitz he has for Parade Master and throwing cells for some future bosses. With now being done with shopping, I can pick a fight with Parade Master. For this fight, I of course use the Blitz for shock damage, but on top of that I use Puppet Saber's handles, Fable Art, Concentrate, which increases my damage temporarily. By using these 2 things in tandem, I was able to get a posture break in seconds to get a fatal attack. I then popped a Fable Charge to reapply Concentrate to pop another charge to get Storm Slash off. And with Parade Master only having a smidge of health left, he went down, earning me my first victory with a no-hit on top of that. I then pick up an upgrade material, head into the hotel, where the game then tries to teach me about leveling up, but I say fuck that and run straight over to the smithy to get my go-go gadget arm. Puppet String allows you to cosplay as Spider-Man. It mainly focuses on technique scaling with it having an A in it, but does have a C scaling and motivity. At level 0, it simply can pull small enemies towards you. At level 1, you can hold L2 to pull yourself towards the enemy. At level 2, upon hooking an enemy, you can dodge to the side before pulling them in or pulling yourself forward. And lastly, level 3, you can pull yourself in and launch yourself off the enemy to deal a devastating attack with your weapon. Very useful for dealing damage or high stagger buildup. It's especially useful in this run for helping with traversal and for dealing good damage with a Legion arm, since I won't be able to make the other arms busted through leveling stats. I then proceeded to get the Life Amulet, the Electric Coil, some throwing cells, some upgrade materials to get my Puppet Saber to +2, and some better defensive parts. With those things done, I visited the Mad Donkey for his annual anal examination. Sadly, he did not survive the procedure. Part of the reason I am not looking forward to the day a doctor will have to stick a finger up my bum. After that lovely finger butthole exam, I get the Puppet Destroyer Amulet to take on Scrapped Watchman. For this fight, I went with a similar setup as Parade Master of focusing on using Concentrate to help deal more damage, but this time no Electric Blitz since Watchman has a very high shock resistance. With just this coupled with the fact that I learned I could take advantage of his derriere after he does his jump attack, I was able to melt his HP bar like butter. Which I was not expecting. That NG+7 run really fucked up with my mindset. I thought this run was going to be on par with the difficulty, but that doesn't seem to be the case yet. With Butter Health defeated, I get the Fulminous, and if you've watched my Legion only videos, you know how busted this bad boy can be. Also, with beating Scrap Watchman, I became a real man so I can play with my P-Organ now, which I mainly focus on increasing my Fable Art damage and Fatal Attack damage. I then switch out the puppet saber for the electric coil since Workshop Union consists entirely of puppets. Once making it to the actual workshop, I grab the salamander dagger, a very important weapon within this run. After getting the dagger, I do the old tradition of standing in poison, smacking away at the Puppet of the Future's kneecaps, like the true Italian mobster that I am. I then proceeded through the workshop collecting weapon upgrade materials, some cranks, some quartz, and some new defensive gear. With having 7 hidden moonstones, I can get my electric coil to +3. On top of that, I had 2 quartz so I could get an extra amulet slot, while increasing my charge attack stagger damage and enhancing my Fable Catalyst effect. I finished playing around with my organ for the second time within the day, and find another puppet's kneecaps to bash in. For Fyoko, I went with the electric coil head and the salamander dagger's handle. The reason I went with this combo was for the dagger handle's R2 attack in combination with the electric coil's Fable Art Generate. With Generate, I'll be able to apply shock much easier, dealing higher damage to Fyoko in combination with the dagger's handle's quick R2 attacks. With just this alone, I could have beaten him, but I decided to incorporate throwing items, thinking they wouldn't be busted being at base level, and I was definitely wrong about that one. After seeing how strong throwables were, I decided I would only use them on bosses that I was really struggling with, and on the Black Rabbit Brotherhood because fuck those ganky motherfuckers. After I threw my whole load at Fyoko, I just finished him off with some R2 spams. With Fyoko defeated, I earned the Flamberge, which will still be useful in this run even with base stats. I then make my way through the mines to get the Carrier's Amulet to help with weight management. Picked a fight with the Atone since she was on my turf and there can only be one Italian gangster in this neck of the woods. Being the good mobster that I am, I visit the church to atone for my sins. I then ransack the place for materials because the damn priest didn't pay his gambling debts. It's okay, I'm doing God's works. Proverbs 13:11, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. Just like me slowly gathering items from the church, I was able to increase my salamander dagger from +1 to +5, and my flamberge from level 0 to level 1. I then ran into Alidoro, one of my capos, who sold me Extreme Modification Amulet and Conquering Amulet. Once done there, I upgraded my P-Organ abilities and took on the fallen Archbishop Andreas, where I went with the salamander dagger and the flamberge. So apparently, even at base level, with using Ignite and the dagger's R2 attack, you can just fuck him up. I was honestly shocked to see how fast his HP went down, and not just in phase 1, in both phases his HP was dropping like flies. This brought me to the realization that weapon upgrades play way more of an effect in damage increasing than stat points, which was the same conclusion I came to in my NG+7 run. With that comically easy fight over with, I hit up Alidoro again to get the Trident of the Covenant because it's my go-to boss weapon for when I'm in trouble. After upgrading, I headed off to the Path of the Pilgrim where I get the Acidic Crystal Spear and a boss weapon upgrade material. I then obliterated a mutated bear with my Gangster Dagger skills, got the Patient Amulet, picked up a Legion Caliber, and found the merchant that upon giving him a Radiant Ergo Crystal, I can buy combat items from him indefinitely, which I took full advantage of for the Black Rabbit Brotherhood. I genuinely thought going into this fight it was going to be a breeze with having items and using the puppet string to pull in the siblings, but I somehow managed to fuck all that up on my first try, ruining my no boss death streak. Which is fine, in all honesty, because the DLC made sure to rack those death numbers up. So, for the second round, I decided for the first 2 siblings, I would just kill them normally and save all my combat items at the end for the Go-Go Gadget Arm 1. This led to an easy stagger and kill. With just the elder brother left, it didn't take too many parries and pokes to get a fatal attack off for the win. With the goon squad dealt with, I find a self-portrait of myself, which is very fitting for an up-and-coming mob boss. The golden tree is also unlocked, which means I can reallocate my P-Organ abilities to remove increased throwing items and replace them with some defensive options. While I was at it, I made sure to get Enhanced Pulse Recovery too to make my heals stronger. The golden tree doesn't just let me reallocate P-Organ abilities, but also my Legion arm, so I reset that as well to get the Fulminous to level 2. I then reassemble my electric coil dagger, head off to Rosa Isabel Street, where I slap around some thieving puppet maids, come across the lady in white who has a weakness of being thrusted from behind, and found a crazy clown puppet who I abuse the fact you can bait out his go-go gadget arm attack, because apparently I can't be special and be the only one with a go-go gadget arm. I then make my way into the Opera House, who also hasn't paid back its debt, so I take some amulets, some quartz, an incredible Venini collection, and a cryptid vessel that will lead me to a Legion caliber. Having a sufficient amount of quartz to upgrade my organ, I make sure to get Link Dodge and start working on getting the 4th amulet slot. Currently, my electric coil is only +5, so I farm some ballerinas until it's +6. Which means I'm ready to take on the owners of the Opera House, my good friend Artie Bucco. Oh, sorry, forgot I'm not Tony from The Sopranos, but P. Phase 1 of King of Puppets, I went with Generate so I could get that shock damage off. What I didn't anticipate was dealing as much damage as I did. So I ended up sending him into his second phase early instead of getting the stagger and fatal attack as I planned. But luckily a few hits afterwards I was able to get the stagger and then the fatal attack. After the fatal attack, I tested out the Fulminous full shot, hoping it would still do some good damage, but with my low advanced stats it did not. So I just had to finish him normally. For Romeo, I just used the trick I learned in my NG+7 run, where you can just dodge to the left of him and just get free hits in without worrying about getting hit yourself. Sadly, that was not the case when he did his long combo attack. I ended up spamming dodge, which just led to me getting killed. Luckily, I made it back to him on my second try, but this time I made sure to only dodge to the left when I was actually about to get hit by an attack. Except for the last swing, I fucked that one up. But I lived, and that's all that matters. Romeo only had a bit of health left at this point, so I went for a stagger with the Fulminous and a barrage of heavy attacks to secure the win. After poor Romeo was murdered for the second time, I switched on over to the Flamberge to help clear out a wine cellar, so that I could help out an old Italian lady with her alcohol addiction like the good Italian mobster that I am. Once done being a good Samaritan, I collected the Legion calibers at the Grand Expedition, as well as the sturdy Krot supplies, which I used to get my Flamberge to level 3 and upgraded the good old fun organ. With the fun organ all funned out, it was time for Victor, and this is where I started to feel the challenge of EL10. I usually don't have trouble with Victor, but with base stats and him hitting like a 1950s private school nun, I couldn't escape without dying a few times. Fortunately, it was only 4 times. So the strategy came to be to use acidic abrasives to get decay off and to deal extra damage. Then wait for the stagger and fatal attack to switch to fire attacks in hopes to get a burn off. Sadly, I did not get the burn off in phase 1. Thinking the burn buildup was still there from the previous phase, I kept going with fire, but I'm pretty sure once he goes into his second phase, all that burn buildup just goes away, because I didn't proc burn until I fatal attacked him again. Overall, phase 2 strategy was simple: run away, bait out his long range attacks, and attack him after he whiffs. Usually a surefire way to ensure the win. I then find out after the fight Victor was a boxer for the new mafia in town run by Manus, the former legendary Pokemon to Giovanni. You would think Giovanni would have learned his lesson after Mewtwo, but apparently not. With Victor defeated, I traded in his Ergo for the Arm of God amulet. I then continued through the swamp to get a Venini collection and the City Long Spear, so that I could buy the Tyrant Blade, infuse it with the City Long Spear handle, and get the Tyrant Blade to +8. I then bullied 2 bosses for some quartz to use on the P organ for some more healing, and took on the green monster of the swamp, who I almost first tried thanks to the crazy combo of grind, concentrate, and fire abrasive. Okay, maybe not almost first tried, but it wasn't a bad first attempt. Looking back on it now, this fight could have possibly been easier with the Salamander Dagger, since I could have used Ignite to keep burning the boss more often, but with how easy phase 1 is, plus being able to take advantage of running around phase 2's Fury attacks, it just made for a chill fight. Kind of crazy how this fight used to be super hard for me, but now I have it down packed. After that fight, I find my underling to trade in the green monster's Ergo for the 2 Dragon Sword. Got to make up for that last video, even though I regret it now. I then got the Murderer Puppet's amulet to use to murder Robber Weasel. I picked me up a new Fitz and the +1 Carrier's amulet. Try and fight the Walker of Illusion normally, and then remember real quick why I despise this fight. So I used the ladder cheese to not deal with this headache, which led to the actual headache, the Corrupted Parade Master. Now, the base level challenge was really kicking in. My damage was really starting to suffer due to not having any levels, and I felt like a wet piece of paper with how fast I would crumble after a few hits. I thought maybe just going pure elemental would do the trick, but that wasn't any better. With every option failing, I was only left with one solution, and that was run away like a scared chicken. The good old hit and run strategy. No reason to get good when you can just run away and peck at the boss until it dies. After sharing my most secretive and most valuable boss strategy, I buy some goodies to use to upgrade my weapons to +10 and upgrade my organ to get an extra special grindstone to use. At this point, I get access to the DLC, but I wanted to gather a few more quartz before doing that. So I reallocated my P organ to have more throwables and take on the Black Rabbit Brotherhood again. As expected, with using throwing items, I was able to dispatch all 3 siblings with no issues. But what I didn't take into account was my fucking up by using a grindstone at the wrong time, leading to the elder brother one-shotting me. So I did it all over again, but this time made sure to not use the grindstone all willy-nilly, allowing me to secure the second try. With the goon squad officially dealt with, I found out Olodoro is a rat and was selling information to the feds, so I made him go sleeping with the fishes. I also get the last Vanini collection to be able to buy the Perfection Grindstone. While on the hunt for quartz, I took out the Door Guardian and a Thieving Child. I then make my way up the tower to get all the quartz that I can get. I then use them to further upgrade my abilities, and while I was at it, I reallocated out the extra throwing items perks. With all that done, I can officially start the DLC section, where I am reunited with Big Butt, and as tradition here, he kills me on the first try, and I kill him on the second try. I then make my way into the zoo, grab a trusty bow, which I upgraded it to +5, and take on the Tyrannical Predator. With being very squishy at the moment, I figured the best course of action was to tackle this boss from range, which was not as easy as I was expecting it to be. On my NG+7 run, I use the same setup, but at base level, it seems I'm a bit more fragile. So the strategy came to be to inflict a burn with the bow to get some tick damage going. Then I would use the level 1 charge of Patient Shot to do some decent damage thanks to the enhanced Fable Arts attack. Once out of Fable charges, I switched to the Flamberge to get burn procs off. With this, it lowered his HP down enough for me to finish off the giant reptile on my 8th attempt. Not going to lie, this has me very worried about the other DLC bosses, so I decided to take a detour back to base game to fight Laxasia. Probably not too shocking, but Lax gave me a bit of trouble. Phase 1 wasn't horrible, my main focus was getting Decay off so that I could break her shield on her back. For dealing with shock attacks, I always found this was a good time to dodge because by the end of it, you could get free hits off, whereas if you parried it, you would miss that opportunity. The only attacks I parried were her long combo strings since this was a great way to get stagger buildup. Another crucial thing in Phase 1 was using the Puppet Strings Link attack. This would deal good damage and stagger buildup. With using this strategy, I found I could consistently beat her first phase. Now, Phase 2 was a bit of a problem solver. I tried a few strategies for my previous runs, but they just weren't getting the job done. So I had to come up with a whole new one. So I did what I normally do by placing myself next to the piles of rocks so that after deflecting it, it will set me up for some easy Fable attacks. But this time, instead of using the Perfection Grindstone to make this easier, I went with the Acidic Grindstone so that I could deal more damage. After the Fable attacks, I would use the Link attack to deal more heavy damage and to dodge her retaliation attack. Usually after this, she jumps away and shoots a lightning ball, which can easily be deflected back to her, setting me up for an easy stagger break. I then get the stagger break, making sure to dodge her attacks, and then refill my Fable charges and apply acid before doing the fatal attack. Immediately afterwards, I go into a Fable attack to finish her off on my 24th attempt. Sometimes you just have to rely on skill rather than Perfection Grindstone to get the job done. With Lax taken care of, I also take out the red fox so that I could get the assassin's amulet, which will help with dealing more damage on crits. I then upgraded my organ to help with guard regain and take on the infiltrating mafia gang's leader, Manus. Manus was actually easier than I thought he was going to be. I did lose a few times, but I felt that was mostly due to me using the Tyrant Murderer's long spear because once I switched to the trident, I had no issues with him. The overall strategy for this fight was using the Satisfaction Grindstone for big damage, and then using the Acid and Fire Grindstone to get tick damage off. Couple this with some well-timed link attacks from the puppet string, I sent this legendary mafia leader to his grave on my 4th attempt. I just wish Marchiona was this easy because my god, was she hell. Let's just get the death amount over with. This crazy big titty bitch killed me 118 times. In my NG+7 run, I wasn't the biggest fan of the camera and how the lock-on system worked, and I have to say, I now outright hate it. I love the concept of this fight, but I just feel 90% of the time, the struggles with the fight was fighting the camera and the lock-on system, which did take a good chunk of fun out of it for me. I know she is fine on normal runs, but when you do a challenge run, you start to see the flaws in a lot of boss designs that you wouldn't normally see on a normal run, or wouldn't be as tedious. Griping aside, I ended up having to use throwables in this fight because otherwise, I wouldn't have any hair on my head right now. Also, just because I used throwables, it did not guarantee me a win. So, the setup came to be, use the acidic crystal spear to get decay off on Marchiona. While Marchiona is decaying, I smack away at her puppet to the point it's almost dead. I then get Marchiona's health low enough to trigger her second phase where I immediately take out her puppet. Once this is done, I use cluster grenades to build up stagger and some damage, which usually leads to a stagger break, and with Marchiona's stun, I use this chance to get another decay off into a fatal attack. From here, she has about a 1/4 of her HP left, so I just spam some throwables, and once I see her going to raise her puppet, I spam shot puts to stun her. With her stun, that gives me enough time to finish her off. With Marchiona defeated, I take a trolley to the hotel, and I'm just now realizing the kitten was on the trolley with me the whole time. I never noticed that in all my other playthroughs. With now having access to the hotel, I can now further upgrade my quartz abilities, which the first one I make sure to take is Enhance Fable Attacks, because that ability has been carrying this run for the most part. I then meet Klaus, a well-respected pimp, who I trade in Marchiona's Ergo for the Morbid Ambitions Amulet. I thought it might come in handy, but come to find out it's not that great for base level runs. I also made sure to buy quartz off of him to enhance my charged attack, and of course I had to sit down and pet the kitten. With that done, I made my way to the giant ice box to grab the Legion amulet and to take on Veronique. I thought maybe this time I would just fight her with close range melee, and I learned real quick that wasn't going to work. So I went back to my normal strategy of fighting her with the bow, and I had no issues taking her out. After that fight, I buy another quartz from Klaus to enhance Perfect Guard Destruction. There really isn't anything left for me to do in this area, so that means it's time for Two-Face. My go-to strategy to beat this hunk of meat is to just use the Flame Bird, since by using it you can bypass his rage state. But with limited Legion and my damage not being that great, that wasn't going to be an option this time around. I figured then I was going to have to learn how to parry him, and let's just say I threw out that option real quick. So that only left me with using throwables, which sadly wasn't going to win me the fight that easily. It took a lot of trial and error, but I finally figured out a strategy. At the start of the fight, I go with the Flame Burge. I use this until I proc Burn. With Burn now proc, I use Radiate, Acidic Crystal Spear's Fable Art that boosts acid damage. I then proceeded to dodge attacks, getting a few pokes in until Decay procs. With Decay now in effect, I go back to the Flame Burge to get another burn off. From here, the boss is close to going into his enraged state, so I start throwing cells to get Shock off. With Shock in effect, this will make Two-Face stagger more easily, meaning I can get him out of his enraged state faster. I then use Saw Blades, Shot Puts, and Cluster Grenades to get the stagger to knock Two-Face out of his enraged state. I then go back to Radiate to get Decay off again for that tick damage, and y'all could already guess I went back to Flame Burge after this. Unfortunately, this wasn't enough damage to kill him, so he does go back into his enraged state, but I made sure to save a bunch of throwable items to be able to finish him off. Let's just ignore the fact though it took me 58 attempts to pull it off. Sadly, Toothface doesn't give me anything for my reward, so I guess we can talk about Baby Green Monster instead. Once again, I tried to use the Tyrant Murderer's Long Spear, but it just wasn't doing as much damage as I would like it to. So I went back to the good old Trident. At this point, my name P must be short for Poseidon. The reason why it's so good in this run is for its Fable Art Link Rush Stab. With the Trident being able to crit, plus having the Assassin's Amulet, it can do some major damage. The only thing that holds this weapon back is me, because my god, I could have won so many times if I wouldn't have messed up a dodge or parry. Fortunately, it only took me dying 8 times until I was able to win. Then I took on the real boss of this area, the damn mining robot. This fucker killed me 11 times. I swear, some of these elite enemies are harder than the actual bosses. With gaining a quartz from a baby green monster, I upgrade my fatal attack so that when I punch Anguish Guardian in the face, it will do more damage. This was a fight that I thought was going to be easy because I did not have much trouble with it in my fresh NG+7 run. Well, apparently in a base level run, he feels like an actual boss. This giant motherfucker killed me 48 times. That's 47 times too many. He really isn't a hard boss to beat, he just has a lot of HP, so that fight goes on for so long. And on top of that, it's not safe to stay on top of him because he could just blind you with his body. So most of the fight was just me running away and waiting for fury attacks to parry. I did give no throwables a shot, but with how long these attempts were getting, I decided to speed things up and use items. As much as I do like my long drawn out fights, I'm currently having my fill with my Sekiro challenge run. The plan for this fight was pretty simple. Use all 5 thermite to get a burn off. Anytime after a jump or fury attack, I would use Fable Arts to try and break the horn as fast as possible. When at a distance or after the Guardian was staggered, I would use Icarus to get some extra damage in. I repeated all of this until I got him to the second phase. This second phase is very simple, just run away and bait out fury attacks, and when I get a fatal attack, I make sure to coat my weapon in fire to get a burn off. After this, just chunk some shot puts and saws at him to get another stagger, to then finish him off in style. I do have to say though, the fatal attack animation is really cool. I'm a bit surprised they didn't do that with more bosses or do like a Mortal Kombat or God of War finisher move at the end. It would be cool to see more of that stuff. After the fights, I trade in the Guardian's Ergo for the Nightmare's Amulet. I know, Pale Knight lovers, it breaks my heart too not picking it, but the amulet will be more useful in this run. With that done, I run past everything because I have no need to kill them. I then came across a great Italian fisherman who asked for some alcohol. Looks like him and the old Italian lady would get along very well, but of course, I agreed to his demands. Once done talking to the man, it was time for... You know, you're a real Pukiak. You know that? The reason why I am calling this son of a bitch a Pukiak is because he killed me 64 times, and for the fact YouTube doesn't want me saying the English word. Lumacchio's first phase is never the issue, it's always his damn sporadic second phase that gives me a lot of trouble. I feel in that phase you really don't get much room to breathe. Hell, Arlecchino has more breathing room in both of his phases, but let's get to how I won this fight. I of course went with the backstab method with a follow-up charge attack, since this is the safest option. Also made sure to apply acid to my weapon to deal more damage and to get decay off. That's all I had to do to beat phase 1. But the really cool thing I learned here was when he does his smoke bomb, if you just run towards him, you can avoid any of the attacks that follow afterwards. For phase 2, I apply fire to my weapon, dodge the 3 attack combo after the boss's transformation, and follow that up with a Fable attack. Once the attack is finished, I back off and throw Thermite for a burn proc. From here, it's just running away and throw cluster grenades after he finishes a combo to get a stagger opportunity. With the boss stagger, I apply fire for extra damage to do a fatal attack, followed by a Fable Art attack, which just leaves a sliver of health left to be finished off by a charge attack. I also just realized looking back at this footage, I did not get hit once during this attempt. I had no clue at the time I even did that, I was just happy he was finally dead. With the Pukiak defeated, I returned to the fisherman to give him his well-deserved beer. It's okay, he's just taking a nap. I then meet up with Leah, we find Romeo's arms, I upgrade my P-Organ for the last time, and take on Arlecchino. It's probably a shocker to no one, but I did die a good bit here. Actually, I want y'all to take a quick guess. Did I die more times to Arlecchino or Marchiona? Put your answers down below in the comments and see if you get it right. Something interesting that I learned during my mini attempts at this fight was that Arlecchino's first phase, he can input read when you heal. So I thought this was just a fluke at first because I thought his eyes glowing red was just random RNG, but it actually only happens when you try and heal. Now, it's not every time, but most of the time after he finishes a combo, if you go for a heal, his eyes will go red and he will attack. Not going to lie, I am not a fan of this. I get punishing the player for trying to heal before a combo ends or before it's safe, but to pull a Dark Souls 1 Gwen move here where you're just outright being punished just for healing in general is just not the type of difficulty I want from my bosses in Souls games. Nameless doesn't do this, Lax doesn't do it either, and they're both really hard bosses that don't rely on something as cheap as input reading. I still love this fight, but it is a bit disappointing to see them take this easy way out and making this boss more challenging. I am happy to say though, this is not the case in Phase 2. Alright, with that long explanation over with, and all the people in the comments saying how wrong I am, here is my winning attempt. Enjoy.
Tick-tock, tick-tock, Romeo's on the clock, and you appear to be nothing but talk.
A hard fight, but not as hard as Marchiona was. I only died 85 times to Arlecchino. Marchiona beat him by 33 attempts. I think that says a lot, but hey, that's just my thoughts on the matter. With Arlecchino defeated, I beat up the last few mini-bosses, and then ran on over to my father, who apparently wants me to prove myself by beating him to become the new Mafia leader. And well, let's just say it wasn't much of a challenge.
Danger. Danger.
Talk about a wild ride. It was kind of crazy how easy the start of this run was, and by the end of it, it was almost as challenging as my fresh NG+7 run, or in some cases harder than that run. With all that said, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, hit that subscribe button. At this time, I would also like to thank my channel supporters. If you too would like to support the channel or have your name in the video, you can click the Patreon link in the description or click the YouTube join button. I also from time to time stream my runs, so you can catch me streaming on YouTube or over on Twitch at A Gang Gaming. I want to thank you all for watching, and until next time, take care.